Hey everybody, this is Praxis. There's hardly a prepping channel host around that hasn't at least at some point on their channel provided affiliate links for, or mentioned, or otherwise tried to get people interested in the idea of purchasing these things right here. These are EMPSheild devices. Two down here, there's a couple up before the power even gets into the charge controllers. At some point I want to wire this into the system as an extra redundancy on top of all my other redundancies. I've got these like growing like polyps all over the system. And I have another one that's down at the other end of my utility room by my breaker box, which is what's kind of protecting the breaker box area in the house. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, is a specific thing that I did to this device with the idea that it might actually get used someday. And if you have an EMPSheild device and you have it wired up, you may definitely want to consider doing this yourself.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now waiting, better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything.
Okay, here I am on the other side of my utility room, and here is the lonely EMPSheild device that is here all by itself, that is just protecting the breaker box here. Again, the reason I have so many of these is that I just think, you know, whatever the situation is that you're dealing with, redundancy, especially for something like this, is a really good idea. So that's why I kind of littered them all over the system wherever there was an appropriate place to put surge protection, or again, I'm not sure whether this is technically a surge protector, but wherever it was appropriate to put this type of device, I erred towards adding them into the system just as extra precautions. Now you see, one thing that's different about this is that I've got a cage over it, and the cage kind of moves around a little bit. And it's not because it's going to go feral and start going around the house and attacking us. The reason I have the cage there is because in my research, when these devices get used, occasionally they, when they're sacrificing themselves to save the system, they can explode. In particular, I know there was a gentleman that talked about him having an EMPSheild, and he had a lightning strike, right near his house, and a lot of that current got induced into his home system, and he had this thing explode off the wall and go flying across the room. And the reason that I want to put a cage around it is that right behind you, right over in this area, it's my pantry. And I've got all sorts of food items over in the pantry side. So I thought it would be prudent to put a cage around it, so if this thing ever got used, it would kind of be confined into the cage. The piece will kind of bang all around over there, but they're not going to be projectiles that are going to be flying across. Now, if somebody was standing here, that could be really, really dangerous. Like if I was like right here and we had an EMP event right now, the thing would like smash into my head if I didn't have the cage. But most of the time, there's nobody back here. But I think if you ever had a situation where there was an EMP, there was an attack, and you're just about to slide into some kind of nuclear war, the last thing you want to have happen, well, there's lots of other things that I would put even further down this list. But one of the things that I would not want to have happen is that at that exact moment, that morning, this thing goes and it takes out, a ton of food that I have on the other side of the shelf. So I designed this cage around here. I made these little brackets that hold the metal cage down. I just used my 3D printer to create those. The metal cage I just made out of some metal mesh that I had. I'm going to put a link down in the description below to some similar items like this. The reason that I made it myself is because just getting a simple cage like this, I was looking around at different, you'll see down in the description below. I'll put like an Amazon link. This thing, like a cage, is like $30 for something like that, and it seems like the kind of thing that you'd find like thrown away in a dumpster from some kind of like a demo job or something. It just seemed like crazy that I was going to spend $30 for it. It was like maybe like $10 or something like that. But yeah, the cheapest I could find was like $30 and up. So I made my own. If I feel like it, maybe I'll make links to the little retaining. You know what? Contact me at praxisprepper@gmail.com if you want to have the 3D print file for these little brackets that I made. I can send it to you individually. I don't imagine there'll be a lot of demand for that. But I'm throwing this idea out there that it's important to think about your preps as though they would be things that you might actually use someday. A lot of that comes down to foods that people buy. People go out and they'll just buy a bunch of canned goods or whatever, and they don't really think about the idea that I may actually want to eat this someday, or I may actually need to eat this someday. So they'll just get these products that they see, maybe right before this video you saw an ad for a product like this. Foods that you've never tried before, and they're like supposed to have some kind of like crazy long shelf life. And the idea is that I don't know really where people's mind is when it comes to it, but I think at least part of it is that people don't really think about the idea that you may actually be eating your preps someday. So that's why I try to get things that I actually eat. I was right up over here on the other side of my pantry. I was reducing my pantry right around the time when COVID happened, because I was building my new house, so I was kind of trying to draw down the pantry so there was less stuff for me to move. And then COVID happened, and suddenly I saw that we were going to have supply chain issues, so I kind of hastily went out and I got a bunch of foods, things that were available at the time, and I got Libby's sweet corn, and it's fine. I use it for stuff, but usually I try to do organic stuff whenever I can, just for I don't know, is it libelous for me to say that I feel like there's health benefits to organic? I don't know, it's just my own personal feelings on it is that the closer your food can be to the way food has always been, instead of creating it in ways that are novel and new and maybe haven't been tested out on a population for enormous amounts of time, I tend to like to err towards that. But when I was trying to stock up during COVID and there were shortages on things, I was just getting whatever I could get, and the cost to you when you think like that, when you act like that, is that eventually you may actually need to use these preps that you're getting. Now, I'm the kind of guy, I don't like to see anything go to waste. I'm certainly not going to throw away food, even if it it's not my my favorite kind of organic food. I'm going to eat the food. So we've been going through stuff, and I've been slowly replacing it with things that I'm more accustomed to. But I think that it's really important to get yourself into the mindset, whatever your prep is, whether it's an EMPSheild device or whether it's pantry items, think about it as though this is something that I might actually use someday, and even that might be a little bit too far removed. Think about it as though this is something I will use someday, and that I think is going to help you probably to make better choices about what types of things you buy, and how you put them, how you set them up. Like, if you're aware that an EMPSheild device explodes or has the capacity to explode off the wall when it gets hit with an enormous amount of current and it's sacrificing itself to save the rest of your system, you're probably not going to put that device like right next to your bed where you sleep. But if you are in this mindset that I'm just kind of buying this thing to kind of check a box and I'm not really thinking about it as though this is something I might actually utilize someday, you might do something like that. So when you're buying preps, think about them as things that you will use someday. Or at least hypothetically so. And I think you'll tend to make a lot better choices both in your purchasing and in secondary steps you might want to take after the fact. That's it. This is a long-winded video, essentially me saying if you have an EMPSheild, put a shield around it. But I think it extends beyond just EMP devices into more general types of prepping and preparedness. And that's why I wanted to speak about it more generally. And I hope you found it helpful and useful. That's it. And thanks for watching. Hey YouTube preppers, if you enjoyed this video, here's another that I think you might like. But before you click on it, I wanted to take a moment to thank all the people you see on the right-hand side of your screen. They help to support all the work that I do here over at patreon.com. If you'd like to join them and get your name added to the list, the link's below.